So in this session, we're going to have a think about actually becoming a family, becoming parents. And for a lot of people, if it's your first time, it's going to mean a real change to most aspects of your life. So we're going to have a look and see how it pans out spending 24 hours with a newborn baby, how that can make you feel, so a bit about postnatal feelings. We're going to look at some practical things like nappy changing and bathing, and also how to put your baby to bed safely. Then we'll have a think about some coping strategies at the end, because I think becoming parents gives you some of the biggest highs and the biggest lows, and it's really worth preparing for that and thinking about what support you've got around you and some of your coping strategies for that. So here I've tried to compare life before having a baby with life after you have your baby, and on the left hand side I've put some of the things that you might do in a typical day where you're not going to work. And down the centre, you've got your 24-hour clock. So the day is starting at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've put on your breakfast, lunch and dinner so you can get your bearings there. And on the right-hand side of the picture, I've put things that you might do after you've had your baby. And I find this really useful to compare, because we all think that we're quite busy people. And I can remember before I had my first baby thinking that I was quite busy and I, did lots with my time. And then after I had my daughter, I can remember sitting and thinking, oh, I used to have so much more free time. What did I used to do with it all, Because once you have a baby, life becomes a lot busier and it's all about what the baby needs. So first of all, let's go and have a look at what you might do before your baby's born. So I've left breakfast in about 8 o'clock, maybe walking the dog, or you may have other things that you do every day if you don't have any animals, but a lot of people have animals to see to. So I've put that in for about 9 o'clock. Bit of food shopping about 11 o'clock, chucking some clothes on to wash around lunchtime, having lunch, tidying up, cleaning the house, maybe a bit of ironing. After that, putting dry clothes away, having dinner and all the prep and the clearing up that goes with dinner, of course, catching up with friends and family in the evening, or you might watch some TV or something like that. After your baby's born, you're going to have a fair few more things to fit in. And obviously babies don't stick to night and day. Tiny babies are 24-hour creatures that go round the clock. In fact, it would be really not good if a newborn baby didn't wake you during the night for a feed. So you must expect to be awake in the night with a newborn baby at some point. So we've got kind of 7:30, changing a nappy, feeding your baby about 7 o'clock. And there's actually 8 feed the baby posts in there, because your baby as a newborn will need to eat at least 8 times in 24 hours in order to get enough milk. Okay, so it's something that we'll talk about more when we talk about actually feeding babies, but just a good thing to remember. What that means is if your baby has been 4 hours without feeding, you'll need to offer it a feed, because they can go for too long without feeding as a newborn. So it's something to bear in mind that your baby needs to feed at least 8 times in 24 hours. And most of those times, your baby will end up having a nappy change as well. So 8 times is a minimum. It could be as much as 10 or 12 times. So that's quite a lot of nappy changes and quite a lot of nappies that you'll get through in a day that you might not have anticipated. So I'm just putting that out there now so that you know. Also, I've put in there around 10 o'clock postnatal exercises. And what we mean by that are pelvic floor exercises, particularly for mums that have given birth. Anyone can do pelvic floor exercises, but women who've been pregnant and given birth really need to make those part of their life after having children. So pelvic floor exercises, if you're not sure how to do them, you can ask your midwife, or you can go online, and you can even download an app now to remind you to do pelvic floor exercises, but they're a really good thing. I've also put in a midwife visit for sort of 2 o'clock. After you've had your baby, your midwife will visit you. It won't be every day, but she won't be able to give you a time, okay? She'll need to fit in her visits around other people, and so we'll expect you to be at home ready to receive the midwife And also just to know that you can call us if you've got any problems. So although you won't see a midwife every day, there's always somebody at the end of the phone that you can speak to if you've got any concerns about anything. The other thing I'd say about having a newborn baby is it's really difficult to find time for visitors and to do much else. So remember that you'll be doing all of these things with your baby. You'll probably be doing most of that list on the left-hand side here as well. And actually squeezing in time and energy for anything else is quite hard. So be kind to yourself. If you're going to have visitors, make sure that they're people who can help you. Maybe they can bring you some extra milk or cake or biscuits, or maybe when they visit they can do your washing up or hang your washing out or walk your dog. Try and have people that can help and support you rather than people that just want to kind of sit and be entertained and then leave you with a big pile of washing up. So really try to pace yourself, because remember that babies will be feeding and needing nappy changes through the night, so you'll probably not get a great night's sleep in the early weeks. But your friends and family will. So you need to pace yourselves in order to make sure that works for you. So life really does change so much when you have a baby. There's a lot more things to worry about. There's a lot more things to get to know, and your energy levels are just lower. So parents probably experience the biggest highs and sometimes the biggest lows as they go through this stage of early family life. It's really normal for women to feel emotional, weepy and anxious at some point between day 2 and 5 after having a baby. This has actually got a name. It's called the baby blues. It's temporary and it's caused by hormones. So it's something that is a normal thing for women to go through, and it resolves by itself within a day. It's called the baby blues, and most women will experience that. Sometimes parents can experience postnatal depression, which may need treatment. They reckon as many as 1 in 10 parents can actually go through that. And it might be that some professional support is needed. So it could be that talking to somebody and sorting out kind of your feelings and sorting out how to manage your energy levels or your sleep is helpful. Or it might be that you need to consider some medication or some other further treatment for that. The take-home message is that there is help with that. It's not something to suffer in silence, and you mustn't feel like you're failing or it's something that you've done wrong. Things can catch us out, and the best way to deal with it is to accept some help so that you can get back to being a happy family again. It's probably fair to say that women do need help to be looked after. So particularly on that weepy day where they get the baby blues, think about what we can do for them. So whether it's remind them about painkillers, give them lots of TLC, cups of tea, chocolate, restricting your visitors, getting some extra rest, going off for a warm bath, or just taking over, doing nappy changing or sorting out all the food can really take the load off. So it's really about teamwork and helping each other, and not having too high expectations of what you can get done in a day. So I've put some pictures here about what to expect in a nappy in the first few days. The first one, top left, is called meconium, and it looks a bit scary, but it's actually a greeny black poo that a baby will do in the first few days of life. So the first few poos that a baby does are greenish black in colour, and it's the stuff that sits in their bowel from before when they were born. So some babies actually do this poo before they're born, and that makes the liquid around them a bit tainted with it. And some babies will do this first poo and you'll find it in the nappy. So meconium is the name that we give that. And that's really the sort of poo that they do before they've digested any milk. Moving across to the left, you can see the splattery yellow poo of a breastfed baby. So somewhere between day 2 and day 5 of being born, the poo should change into yellow. So the picture underneath is a little bit more solid, more of a formed stool. That's the kind of poo your baby might do if it's having formula milk. Okay, so breastfed babies' poo tends to be quite splattery and bright yellow. And then the bottle-fed babies' poos tend to be a little bit more solid and a little bit browner. Okay, so you can see quite clearly the different poo in those pictures. If by day 5 your baby was still doing meconium, that dark poo, we'd be a bit concerned that it wasn't drinking enough milk, because once the milk starts to go through their system, the poo definitely changes. So that's something that we look for reassurance that the baby's getting enough milk. So we will often ask you what colour your baby's poo is. We get a bit obsessed with it. The other thing that should be in a nappy every day is urine. So plenty of wet nappies each day as well. So fluid going in is, the fluid that's going to come out. And the bottom picture here actually shows you something a bit unusual. It's like orange brick dust in the nappy, and it's called urates. So if a baby isn't quite drinking enough and there's a bit dehydrated, the baby can pass what looks like sort of brick dust into the nappy, and that's called urates. If that happens, it means it's a sign your baby needs to be feeding more, drinking more. If it happens more than once, you need to let us know so that we can just make an assessment of how that baby's doing. So in this picture, you can see that it's a slightly older baby. It's not actually a newborn baby, but it's a good picture because it shows somebody holding the baby's feet and ankles whilst changing the nappy, which is something that's really, really, really important, because if you let go, the baby can move their legs and feet and mash the poo all over the area where you're trying to change the nappy. So that's a top tip. Always hold the feet and ankles as you're doing a nappy change to avoid spreading poo everywhere. But the really, really golden rule when you're changing nappies is to get everything ready before you start. So before you take that nappy off, get everything that you need within a close range. So get your fresh nappy, get your water or your wipes and cotton wool, whatever you're using, where you can grab it with one hand. So get things ready before you even venture into changing the nappy. And newborn babies will need somewhere between 8 and 12 nappy changes in 24 hours. So it's something that you're going to get really practiced at because there's going to be so much of it to do. Like I say, you can use water wipes, you can use water or cotton wool. Anything really plain for a nappy change on newborn skin is a good thing because their skin is very thin and it's very sensitive. But it's actually the bacteria from wee and poo that's left on the skin that can cause nappy rash. So each time they have a nappy change, they need a really good sort of wash down and pat dry before a clean nappy is put back on again. If you are having problems with sore skin or nappy rash, then it's worth trying a barrier cream just to protect the skin. But if you're not getting anywhere with that and you're doing a good job of cleaning them, it's worth showing your GP or your midwife, because sometimes babies can get nappy rash that needs a prescribed cream. Sometimes they can actually get a fungal infection like thrush on the skin that looks like a rash. So if you're really struggling, just get some health advice with that. You might like to wash your baby's hair rather than give your baby a whole bath. Certainly when babies are first born, we don't tend to bath them completely because we don't want them to get cold. But if you want to just give the hair a clean, you can wrap the baby, keep the nappy on, wrap the baby in a towel and do that over the sink. It's easier if you use something like a cup or a jug just for pouring over. And you can see in these pictures a good way of holding the baby to support the neck and the head and actually get the job done over the sink. Everything's really done with one hand when you have a baby. So one hand to hold the baby and the other hand to wash the hair. If you want to use any products, just a very mild baby shampoo is okay. Would just avoid any harsh chemicals, and it's okay if you just want to stick to water. That actually is enough. So in these pictures, I've shown you a really good technique for holding your baby when you do go to bath the baby, because they are like slippery eels once you get them in water. So it can be a bit frightening. You'll need to always support their head. And the way to do that is like the top picture here shows. So to put their head across your wrist and to grip them sort of under the armpit and around the shoulder. So you've got that really firm grip where they're not going to slide off into the water, and then your other hand is free to actually wash them. And the same with nappy changing. Just the golden rule here is get everything ready before you start. So before you even think about getting your baby into the water with its nappy off, Get everything ready, get your fresh towel, sort your water out so that it feels comfortable temperature. It's just common sense running a bath. Don't scald the baby, don't freeze the baby. Just test it with your arm. If it feels comfortable, then it's right. And you don't need to use any products on newborn skin. Keep it as plain as possible if you can. If you want to use a very mild soap or baby shampoo, that should be fine. If your baby shows any reaction to that, then just avoid it next time. The other way of bathing a baby is actually to get in the bath with you. And again, as long as you haven't got any sort of harsh products and the bath isn't too hot, babies actually really enjoy that. And it can be particularly nice for parents to bath with their babies. And babies do tend to like being with you in the water because they feel a bit more secure. So the bottom picture shows a baby just resting on somebody's lap, enjoying bath time together. It's a really nice thing to do. It's much easier if you can pass the baby to somebody before getting out, because getting out of the bath yourself with the baby can be a bit hazardous and can be a bit tricky, and one of you will probably get cold. So if you can have some help with that, it's a nice thing to do. And sometimes bathing a baby can help settle a baby. Sometimes they love it and sometimes they're not so keen. So if they scream their heads off, it's probably going to be a 3-second dip. If they're enjoying it, you might well spin it out a little bit. And as long as you've made sure that you've shut the windows, kept the room warm, that should be fine for a newborn baby. There's lots of things that we can say here about putting babies to bed safely. I've put some very clear pictures because although it's not a very nice thing to talk about, we know that there are ways of reducing your baby's risk of sudden infant death or cot death. It's a very rare thing, but we want to give you the right information to reduce your baby's risk. So the things that are really, really important are to always sleep your baby on its back, okay, with the feet to the foot of the cot. So you can see in these pictures really clearly the baby's down at the bottom of the cot with its covers over, and the rationale for that is that they can't get underneath the covers and then become too hot or smothered with the blankets, so there's less chance of them overheating. So remember that actually being too hot is more dangerous for your baby than being on the cooler side. It's also really important that your baby has its own cot to sleep in. We recommend a new mattress that's passed British Safety Standards test, with its own covers. So although you may feed your baby and bring your baby into bed with you for comfort, it's a really good idea if you can put the cot next to your bed, so that your baby's got its own safe sleeping space, and that really helps. If your baby's in bed with you, you need to do the obvious things, not put the baby in the middle or right near the edge. So you need to sort of protect your baby from overheating, or protect your baby from anybody rolling onto them or for them dropping off the side. So really having their own bed to sleep in is going to be the easiest way around that. We recommend that you have your baby in your room with you for the first 6 months of its life, and that is because you'll be then more able to respond to them if they wake up, if they're hungry, or if they're making any funny noises or having any problems with their breathing. It's really not advisable to sleep with your baby on a sofa or an armchair. These have been found to raise your risks, and it's also really a good idea to keep your house and the area where your baby is smoke free. So if anybody's a smoker, it's best if they can quit, and if they can't quit, it's best if they smoke outside away from the baby. Sometimes we can work out what babies need or want. Sometimes babies can cry and we can feel angry and frustrated because we're only human and everyone has their limits. Newborn babies are probably sent to find where your limits are, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them. And because you care about them, it can be a real wind-up if you can't work out why they're crying, So if you feel really wound up, it's really important that you put your baby safely in the cot and walk away to get some time out. Okay, sometimes we're not going to be able to work out why they're crying, but we need to have a strategy for not ending up getting cross or angry with our children. So it's okay to put your baby down on its back safely in the cot and have some time out. Go and have a cuppa, go and punch a cushion, get some rage out with something that's not going to matter. Go and play some music, get a quick shower, have some deep breaths at the back door. do anything you can and only go back to your baby once you feel calm, because if we're honest, all parents have had a time where they just feel completely wound up and angry and cross. And that's when dangerous things can happen to babies. So we want to try and avoid that. So you need a strategy. It's okay to leave your baby alone for a bit if it means that it's going to keep them safe. Only go back to your baby once you feel calm. If this feeling happens a lot, it's probably a sign that you need to get your baby checked over to see if there's any underlying health issues, and see what support that you can gather for yourself. If you're trying to do too much on your own, you might find that things are getting you down and things get too much more often than not. So, have a little look around, see if any of your friends or family can help you a bit more. Even have a look at things like the Samaritans if you're finding that you need somebody to talk to, who are there all the time. And check out the local support groups. So particularly we've got Happy Mums in Carlisle, in and around Carlisle and Cumbria. So something like that might be a real lifesaver, might be a real comfort for you as well. So I want to end this presentation thinking about something nice, because some of the things we've talked about are quite stressful things. The golden first hour is that hour after your baby's born. And in these pictures, you can see all these babies having skin to skin. And this can be really good after your baby's born, but it's also good at any time when you need to soothe or comfort your baby. So if you've got a baby that is finding it difficult to feed, or if you've got a baby that is crying a lot, try doing skin to skin. Go back to basics and see if skin to skin does help to soothe and comfort them. Or even have a bath together. That can be a really good way around it too. Really, everything will be new to you when you first have your baby, but you as parents will become the experts in your baby. So as health professionals, we know if you're worried about something, we really listen to you, because you're going to spend a lot of time with your baby and you'll get to know each other. And where things are going to feel a bit tricky and you'll feel a bit unsure of yourself with things like nappy changing and bathing to begin with, you will become the experts based on doing it so much and just learning through doing. So just enjoy that process and don't be too hard on yourselves as you are learning. It's all new to you and it's new to your baby, and you'll get there.